I just realized I did that for the second time this week. I muted myself. What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. We're live. We're back. We've got an interesting guest today to kick us off. Her name is Chris Zhong. Chris has spent her career inside the rooms most technologists never see. She cut her teeth at Microsoft and Accenture architecting enterprise systems, then went all the way to the top of institutional finance, managing architect at the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, which is like the central bank of central banks. And she's here joining us today to talk about SunDAO Ventures, which is an investment DAO where 70 plus validators, security auditors, protocol founders, and VCs across 20 plus countries collectively source and vet early stage deals and publish why they pass. So what an exciting project. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, Sunny. Great to be here.
I saw you had a chuckle at my expense with my my muted start. Sorry about that. But yeah, anyways, I guess that's the beauty of live stream. It's not always perfect. But Chris, where are you joining us today from?
From Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne, Australia. I was telling you earlier, that's one of the places where I need to definitely make a trip out to. So I like to start with just diving right into the deep end and asking about, SunDAO Ventures. We'll keep it short and kind of high level for now, but we'll go deeper into it as well. But tell us, what is SunDAO Ventures? Like, what are you building and why are you building it?
Yeah, so in a very simple term, SunDAO Ventures are a decentralized venture capital. If you're familiar with how the venture capital industry works, we do a very early stage investment, particularly for Web3 startups. And our SunDAO has currently more than 70 DAO members. Their background is across all the fields in the Web3. A lot of them are very successful founders themselves, and they want to support the next generation of the new founders and push the technology forward. Some of them are also having expertise in legal, in marketing, in exchange, in market making. And so we're very proud of the diversity of the members in our DAO. And we has been started, from the early 2024, and we were incubated by Hydro Ventures, which is the biggest fund of fund for investment DAOs. And we have been operating for a year and a half, and continue to grow. And I think to explain the differences for the SunDAO versus the traditional VC, traditional VC structures, you have GPs and you have LPs, and the GPs are the people who make investment decisions, and they will also do all the investment operations from deal sourcing all the way to investment and to portfolio support. And LP, they play a relatively passive role, which is they provide funding or money, to the fund, so the GPs have money to invest. In SunDAO, the model is slightly different in a way of the members is they are both GPs and they are LPs. And the good thing about this is, and this is how we initially envisioned SunDAO, is we all know that in this world there are two types of organizations. One is very much prioritized in efficiency. You saw a lot of centralized exchanges, or most organizations, they are centralized organizations, then efficiency is very important. In our view, we do it particularly for decentralized venture capital in a sense, is we believe the collective intelligence here play a more important role when it comes to the investment decision making. So in our models, everyone is an LP and everyone is a GP, and everyone is contributing to the DAO based on their own expertise. And me, co-founder, I call myself co-founder for SunDAO Ventures, but actually the official title is summoner. So my job is to summon the DAO together, and I leave the operations. Then I'm just a normal member of the DAO. So I contribute where I can contribute based on my expertise. But we like to see, because the industry is moving, Sunny, it's very fast, especially for the Web3 and crypto industries. It's very difficult for, one or two people to be able to cover or have the depth to see everything that is moving in the industry. So that's why we are very much into this sort of collective sort of intelligence when it comes down to the investment, because, as I say, it's really based on where our members' expertise lying in. And that drive quite a lot of deal flows as well as the due diligence. And we'll be able to look at the due diligence from a very comprehensive perspective, just because the expertise we have within the DAO. And also because they are both LPs, they also contribute their capitals. So incentive is quite aligned, right? Everyone is investing in their own money. So for their best interest, they do want the deal to be successful. So I think that's a nutshell of, why we building the SunDAO, how it formed. We started with, I think, less than 30 people initially, and now we grow to 70 and continue to grow.
I mean, first of all, great job on all the success so far. I have so many questions, Chris. I do dabble in the VC world. I've raised capital. I've invested. I've started, as I mentioned, India's first crypto exchange. I've worked at Kraken as the head of global BD. So I've spent a lot of time in this space and in kind of both worlds. But as I'm very curious to kind of go deeper into your thesis and like what you're seeing there, because it's very, very intriguing. But I got to ask first, why Sun?
You probably guessed why DAO, right? Because it's a centralized,
decentralized
autonomous organization. The Sun is really, I think because when the sun rises, you see the light is cover everything on the earth. So it doesn't differentiate itself. So whether you are in Canada or I'm in Australia, some people in India, we all enjoy the sun. The sunlight. I think in that sense is, we want this DAO to be inclusive. We want it have the diverse perspectives that giving, the startups opportunities, at least, when they actually trying to, present their ideas. And I think that's the idea of why we're choosing the sun, and everyone like to be warm.
Very interesting. Okay, so like I said, maybe we'll geek out on some of the technicals a little bit later. One of my favorite things to do in the show, and I'm happy to fast forward through some of this, but I love the hero's journey, if that makes sense. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, what's your story? And you grew up to become one of the most senior technical women in institutional finance. But let's rewind, right? Like, where did you grow up, and what first pulled you towards computers and technology?
Yeah, I was born in China, and I studied computer science for my bachelor degree, and in China. And then I moved to Australia. I continued to pursue my master study also in computer engineering side of things. So very technical. In our education, we were brought up to understand the importance of education, brought up to understand the importance of being very diligent and hardworking. And I think that's the value my early childhood and the teenager ages that has bring me to. Then Australia, after I graduated, I was very happy, fortunate to get into my first job into the tech consulting world. So I think that sets the tone for the next, I think, 20 years of my professional career in Australia. I think my journeys, they call me the big company offer harvest machine. So in a sense, I was getting quite a lot of good offers from big tech companies, and Sunny, the Australian working cultures teach me one thing, that is, it's like American dream, right? I call it Australian dream. Is if you really, wanting to put hard work into something, and regardless of where you come from, what's your background, and you will be given opportunity to be successful. And I think, in my whole career, I only sent a resume in my first job, the graduate job, to get into the tech consulting world. Then every job I got afterwards is all, I never sent a single resume afterwards. And I think Australian really teaching me, I guess, once you put in your heart onto something and focus on it and hone your skills really well, then the opportunities always open up for you. I get to then I think before COVID, I got opportunity, very fortunate and very privileged to move to Switzerland and work for a bank for international settlements. I never heard about them before. I never dreamed of my life will be spent a few years in Switzerland. And that was a fascinating experience. I would never regret. I think in working for Bees, it teaching me something very different. It teaching me, when we're having those international organizations having meetings, I don't know if you noticed, did you notice that at least in our buildings, the table are always round. So, and why we're doing round table discussion, and then you heard about that word round table discussion, right? It's never say square table discussion. It is about giving every participant the equal opportunity or equal representations on the table. And I think if you learn the Western cultures for the career, you're going to be ambitious, you're going to be driving, and you're going to be competitive in the corporation. And in the Bees, I learned a very different way, which is collaboration. It's about coordination. We are international organizations, and it's about striking the balance. Like, you do not have to be winning in the room every time, and actually winning in that sense is not being you are the best. It's about compromising. It's about be able to drive in consensus among your peers and among other peoples to achieve the optimal outcome. So I think that was shaping me as a person, quite a lot. I was a very ambitious people in my 20s and 30s, but I think that experience has shaped me. I think the next level, when you're looking at, especially from a global perspective, on how decision is actually being made.
And Chris, what is it about the decision-making process, or more specifically, the consensus mechanism behind? I mean, you've now, I guess, lived at the height of, arguably the most centralized financial, the pinnacle of the whole system, right? That the whole world runs on. And now here you are building a decentralized system that has a very different consensus mechanism. I guess, like, what insight, what was it that you saw, where, like, what, like, how How did you get here? I have like 20 questions that I could use to build up there, but that's the question on my mind right now. And I'm sure people are wondering how or why.
As I mentioned, right? It's there are certain type of organizations when you are very much commercial driven and you are very competitive, then you need efficiency, you need very fast decision makings, you want the determinations, the people who can make the call. When you are in international organizations, different priorities. So like public sectors, like central banks, what we call the goal is never to make money. And that's why I think there were, quite a lot of discussions, about, if you read, why, we cannot using stable coins, why private sectors, cannot just using stable coin as money, because it's very different goals. Private sectors, the goal is profit making, and the government's goal is public goods. So money in that sense is used as a tool set for government to making the public goods. So in a sense, is we can use that for interest rate, and we can have like foreign exchanges, all those sort of mechanisms in be able to handle like when financial crisis is coming, and we be able to coordinate across. So you can see different type of organizations, different goals, and they probably will have very different sort of mechanisms for decision making.
When did you first learn about Bitcoin?
That was in 2017, 2018.
And what did you think when you first read it?
I think technology-wise, see, I work in the technology world. So for me, it's quite revolutionary in the sense is the whole modern software is and is built on, and a lot of software companies become really successful with building on doing the reconciliations between different companies, right? Because when we go global, when we go bigger, right? So the data is siloed, and when we're doing any sort of transactions, and we do quite a lot of data reconciliations within the corporations, across the corporations. So what I see the first or the potential of the blockchain is the whole a shared ledger. So you do not have to do those sort of chatty sort of the reconciliation. So for me, it's very, very good come to the efficiencies sort of things. And then that's why you can actually, reduce the settlement time from T2 or T3 to, immediate the settlement. So that's the first thing. Then the second is, I think at that time, it was fascinating because Bitcoin itself, become sort of the currencies that, people use to, trade, or they use, they started to have that sort of monetary characteristic associated with that. And I was very much into the, the economics, central banking, currency side of things, and I was starting to pay attention of Bitcoin and how it actually evolved, because it's always in my view, if you talk about global currency, I like the concept, but I also think about why it's never going to be successful, or it hasn't been successful, become a global currency as of yet. It's because every country has, and every city even has, and every district, probably you live in your neighborhood and I live in my neighborhood. They all need to have a different sort of, we call monetary policies, because the demography is different. So if you have one global currency used by every country, you have to think about how are you going to solve the discrepancies or different needs between different sort of small society or sort of atomic sort of economic unit. I think that's the question. It's not about transaction, money transfer or those sort of things. I think that's probably the primary thing, and that's why I think you know people talk about have a sovereign blockchains and issuing their sovereign currencies and leveraging blockchain technologies, which I think could be something have the potentials to for explore.
What chains are you guys using? Is it Cosmos, Ethereum? Is it a combination of all of them, or
you mean
like under the hood, I guess, for the DAO? I assume there's some sort of
so we don't issue we don't issue coins or anything like that. We just do a traditional business, traditional investment, but in a new business model. So underneath, when we do investment, we still go into the traditional way, although because most of the investment are crypto companies, we do white stable coin like USDC, USDT, but we don't actually have our own.
Okay, but is there any relationship to any of the chains? Like, do you guys like build even your audit? I mean, your systems internally on it?
Yeah, initially, because both me and my business partner came from Cosmos ecosystems, right? We both holding, working closely in the foundation, in the ICF Interchain Foundation, which is the steward for Cosmos ecosystems. So initially, it was very much focused on Cosmos ecosystems. The initial DAO members are mostly Cosmos, but as we grow and we see the needs to expanding beyond Cosmos, that's for sure. So that now we are ecosystems agnostic. Our DAO members come from all kind of ecosystems. Actually, the startup we backed, probably only one from Cosmos ecosystem so far. All the others come from Ethereum, Solana, etc.
Oh, fascinating, interesting. And by the way, both Ethereum and Cosmos, I had a front row seat. I saw both of them being born because I'm from Toronto, and I've been in Bitcoin since 2012.
Ethan Bachman.
And so Ethan, I used to host events where Vitalik's dad was sitting front row, Ethan was speaking. I mean, it was crazy. It was so much fun. So your early career ran through Microsoft and Accenture, deep in enterprise software and solution architecture. Like, what did those years teach you about how large organizations actually adopt technology?
I wouldn't. Okay, I think the risk appetite certainly is not as big as because it's quite a lot of governance. There are a lot of discussions, and you need to. And again, when we come to the large organizations adoption, it's never a single person decision, right? It can be a certain single person decision to run a pilot. But again, it's the consensus mechanism you need to be in place to work with different shareholders and drive to the consensus to reach to agreement. So that's why people always say enterprise sales is very long sales cycle. And there's a reason for that, because the importance of the decision and and be able to get the different stakeholders to buy in and contributing to this decision is very important. It's not about racing to be the fastest to adoption. You need to have a very balanced and agreement, within the organizations before you do that. That's why, yeah.
And you saw consensus once again at the highest levels of government or I guess money, but then also at the highest levels of like organizations, what was the kind of the distinct difference? Because you talked about consensus and agreement. Is now in the private sector, was there like a stark difference in terms of how they arrived at decisions? I mean, it seems like both are probably fairly slow and time consuming because you need to make sure you bring everybody along, but at the same time, they're probably guided by different principles and goals, right?
Yeah, I think the more, the more the more important the decision is, you probably will taking naturally more time on deliberate on that to have different levels of consultation. That's how normally government do, because they understand every decision they make is impacting millions of people. Okay, and in that sense, it takes very long. And organizations, and depends on the impact of that decisions. And I think the consensus mechanisms, and that's what I was trying to allude, that if your decision will having more impact on a lot of people, that generally taking more time to for people to form that sort of consensus. And even if like you are very confident that I know this is a decision as a leader, as a CEO, if I'm very confident about this is a decision I'm going to make, I'm still going through the process.
Got it. So Chris, there's a story of a client calling you a master of your craft back in your consulting days. Where did that obsession with mastery come from?
I don't know that's mastery of my craft, but I think that's what quite a lot of things I learned in my during the time in China, because we very much believe in hardworking and very much focus on particularly areas and become really good about it. And the same is, that's why when I get into the consulting, yeah, I think I was very good with the technology. I think, whatever the technology, I was the first technology I learned is SharePoint. I don't know if it sounds like very ancient things, but I was the certified master. I think you probably have less than 100 people in the world holding that certificate. But I think in my consulting years, what I learned very much is I always putting myself into a problem solver, into the customer's shoes. So, for example, like I have the inbox zero inbox rule during my consulting days, and that's only for customer. So for customer emails, I reply within 1 hour. That's what I try to. If I cannot do it, I would tell them I will reply later, but I will send the first reply within an hour. So that's how obsessed I am, but that's how I get rewarded. Also I think during my consulting days, I think that's one thing I learned is if you really, once you starting doing something, put your whole heart on giving it a go. I don't plan much and thinking how far my career goes, but my career is just naturally, it takes you to the places that I never imagined I could have the opportunity. So I think this same mindset have come to when I do the entrepreneurship.
Got it. So I hate to spend too much time on this, but I'm just so curious because I've never got to meet somebody like with your experience, right? So you went from the heart of the central banking system to the Interchain Foundation. You became the steward of the Cosmos ecosystem, and as technical director and CTO on the board management. Like, what made you jump? Was there a moment? Did you read something? Did you have a conversation? Did it take a long time for you to arrive at that? Like, what did that process look like?
I think the Cosmos at the time I was, because the Cosmos thesis is about sovereign finance. Ethan, the founders, I think the initial vision is, for Cosmos to be used by government, to be able to issue their currencies, in the future, because it's a sovereign chains. And I think that excited me to see, the new, because the money and the traditional finance in the central banking, they are quite, stagnant sort of the system, because then there's a reason for that, because you need stability, right? Every changes and technology innovations, you have to collaborate and thinking through very carefully, because as I mentioned, it's going to impact a lot of people. So I think there are two things, when I, jumping into the Cosmos Foundations, one is, the opportunity, to get into the heart of the technologies, to be able to drive the roadmap, to be able to work with the founders directly, and see. I think that's itself, I'm quite excited about that. And second is also, I think, for my heart, it's still, I have a heart of entrepreneurship. And I think, for my corporate, even, in my corporate times, I don't know if you notice, I started a not-for-profit organization called the Blockchain Philanthropy Foundation, which we helping not-for-profit organizations to use blockchain. So we built something, I think that time, think about like a PayPal for crypto. Then we giving to the charities to use that to accept donations and crypto donations, all those sort of things. So I think I don't have an exactly plan to the next steps, but I know that what is drawing me to, which is, eventually I want to, do my own startups. And I think going into the Cosmos, giving me quite a lot of exposures to work with the Cosmos ecosystems startups, because the ICF looking after the grant for the Cosmos ecosystems. And then I got the opportunities to work and with a lot of startups for the grant allocations, grant discussions and stuff, and seeing how they building stuff from scratch. I think that was a very fascinating part.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I was going to ask you, so what surprised you the most about how the two worlds differ?
One is very, very organized. Everything has a everything has a process and procedure, and the other is completely the opposite. Like it's
Mayhem, chaos.
Yeah.
I'm also a conference organizer, and I've had Ethan and these guys speak, and so I can speak to that. But how so then how do you arrive at this thesis that chaos and I guess public markets and freedom and cryptography gets us to a better answer when it comes to investment decisions? Like let's switch gears to SunDAO a little bit, right? Like for someone who has never heard of an investment DAO, like how do you, I've been alive during the first DAO. What was that one? I forget the name of it. The one that went that made Ethereum split into Ethereum Classic and all of that. But how do you describe what you've built, and essentially why is it different from a traditional fund? You touched on it at the intro, but can you maybe peel it back a little bit more, go deeper into it?
Yeah. I think it's come to, I would say 3 things. Okay, and I can explain it very briefly. The first thing is with the traditional fund is the decision-making mechanisms, right? I think that's or the operating model. So for the decision, for the traditional fund, the decision is made by GP, okay? And for us, it's by the voting, by the DAO. So the DAO members, so the process we do is for the startup we interested, we'll invite them to come to the DAO, and they directly speaking to the DAO members. We ask all kind of questions during the live call, and we will open up the voting. We'll prepare everything, and the DAO members will be able to vote after the call. So the decision making is very much on the decentralized sort of governance. The second is the incentive alliance. So in the traditional VC fund, so if you are GP, okay, you made a bad investment, okay, because you still have your salaries, right? Probably you don't have your carry or your bonus, but you have a pretty good salary, I would say. So in a sense, if you made bad decisions, the consequences is relatively smaller, I consider, versus you putting your own fund into the investment. So and which we thinking, if for us, every DAO members is putting their own money into the investment. So when they do the due diligences, I think they have much of the incentive alliance, on that. The number three, compared to traditional fund, our DAO is not we are really strategic not because the money we can give to the startup. We really strategic because we are a community that has members have really they can play all kind of wonders in all different fields. In a sense, we're very proud of the way we be able to support our portfolio companies. In a sense, we can getting them into meeting all the other investors. But the thing is, we can also do partnerships. Our members depends on what sort of needs our startups are. If they need market makings, we have market makers in the DAO. If they need legal advice, we have lawyers in the DAO. If they need marketing, if they need partnership. So because it's in the DAO's members' interest to make our startup successful. So it's become a continuous relationship sort of the building rather than just the transactional putting money in the investment. So I think those are the three things we see is different when come down to compared to the traditional fund.
So SunDAO publishes why it passes on deals, right? So which almost, I guess, nobody in venture does. Why radical transparency, and what does it cost you?
See, at the end of the day, we are investment DAO and we make money primarily by investment, right? And we want to make more startup investable, and by providing the feedback, it doesn't hurt us. And we, in a sense when we're thinking about this, we want to help startup to be successful, whether we invested in you or we're not invested in you, because this is the industry that we have startups that we didn't invest it, but we end up I think our members be able to do business, become their customers and everything. So our whole philosophy is about making the pie bigger instead of trying to slice a bigger slice of the pie. So with that, I think have transparencies so people understand what actually the operator thinking, and why we're making these decisions is because it's not because we're thinking as a VCs or investors. We're thinking as actually the industry operators, which has been running very successful business in the Web3 and giving you that sort of advice, not just for investment, but also for how you develop your business, moving forward to make it successful. Because not every business is venture backable, but it doesn't mean that you won't be able to make a successful business even if you are not getting invested.
Interesting. So you're running an investment DAO and building a startup at the same time, right? So how do the two feed each other, and how do you kind of split your energy?
Oh yeah. So that's a good question, right? So because I mentioned it's an investment DAO, so my job after I summon the DAO, it's mostly done. And then I just support DAO in my part-time as a normal DAO members for the investment, for everything I could. And then I have some time at my hand that I like to try something different. I think that's why And I'm very excited about AI. I think I never seen any technology like this in my life. So I feel like I have kind of FOMO. like if I don't build something in this AI era, I think I will regret.
Yeah, you and me both. But yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, hey, Chris, so just to kind of help me land the plane, I think we're almost at the end of here. So 5 years out, what does winning look like for SunDAO, for Tavo AI, like, and how enterprises measure whether AI actually earned its keep?
Yeah. I think I take it separately. I think for SunDAO, I think I summoned the DAO together. I think I don't see myself being visionary, because it's now is a consensus driven governance, and it's not like my idea, my vision that's going to driving SunDAO forward. It's how the market reacts, how members react to the market directions, and they will come up with things. But we like to continue to grow SunDAO, from both membership perspective, from our investment perspectives, and we also, I think, for 5 years, we really like to see SunDAO expanding beyond Web3, and maybe we can, also get into AI, can get some really, smart folks, in AI, coming and join, the DAO. I think that's that I see is part of my summoner's job is summon and recruit.
Awesome.
And
and then the second part?
Yeah, for the second part, for Tavo, it's very fast moving, place. I think, Sunny, I think it's very difficult now for any startup to try to find the product market fit, and claim like to saying, I have a product that's gonna last for 5 years. I think, for Tavo, my goal is, I hope that, it can, play a role in the enterprise adoption thing, and have something just useful and valuable for enterprise to use. I think that's, like I said, I never plan my career. I never, and the same as when I have in entrepreneurship, I never think about, when I'm going to raise, when I'm going to, have the next release. I know what I'm going to do for the next month, probably next quarter, but I haven't think that far, to be very honest with you, for the next 5 years, what success looks like. I certainly want to build something useful that people feels like useful.
Awesome, Chris. Where do people learn more about SunDAO? Where do they learn more about you? And then also Tavo.
Right. So I think, the easiest way is, if people connect me on the LinkedIn, you just, search my name, Chris Zhong, and putting either SunDAO or Tavo there, you will be able to, see me. And once we connected, then you will be able to, discover both, SunDAO and Tavo.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to bring this stream to an end. Chris, hang out for 1 minute. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you all for tuning in.